Welcome to the LFG Pats Pod with your hosts, Joe and Mike. Let's go!
All right, welcome into the LFG Pats Pod. This is a very exciting episode. We have the schedule drop from yesterday, so we had a great episode with the Foxborough fellas. We talked about the AFC East.
Shout out Foxborough fellas.
Absolutely. And so that was great, and now today we're on to our entire schedule. So now we know where we're playing. We know when we're playing. We knew who we were playing, right? But I think the schedule is really interesting. There's a lot of interesting facts about this. So, Mike, we had some great facts on, the mileage, how much miles we traveled, the number of time zones that we crossed, and some interesting tidbits that we didn't, even think about.
Well, you look at some of the stuff as far as what you said, travel, but also the strength of schedule is ridiculous. We're ranked in the bottom of the league, so that really helps, and the travel also really helps because we're one of the lowest travel teams in the league right now. I think we're ranked with 12,000 miles traveled, with crossing only 4 time zones. You put that up against the Chargers, who have 37,000 miles that they're going to be traveling and crossing 42 different time zones. So I don't care what you say, that puts wear and tear on a team. So the fact we're not going overseas, we're not going to the West Coast or anything like that. I think the furthest west we're going is Cincinnati and New Orleans, and everything else is just staying right around schedule in here.
The way it's shaken out is we were excited about our schedule with who we were playing home and who we were playing away, and we had the second easiest strength of schedule already, and now you add this on top of it, and boy, it's tough for Mike and I to pick out losses as the opponents were already weak, but then when you look at them stacked together and, home stints and away stints, everything it's like the stars are aligning for us, and it's amazing. But before we get into any of that, here's a word from our sponsor.
Rogue Island Local Kitchen and Bar in Providence, Rhode Island offers a fresh take on new American cuisine. We have a focus on locally sourced ingredients with over 55 local craft beers and expertly crafted cocktails. We're the perfect spot for foodies and drink enthusiasts alike. Follow us on social media at Rogue Island for daily specials and upcoming events you won't want to miss.
All right. So thank you guys. So it's going to be a long episode. We're going to try to keep it crisp. There's a few things we want to go over before we jump into it. So how we're going to structure this is very similar to what we did with the AFC East episode. So we're going to look at it and say, what's this team done as far as the offseason? What have they done as far as the draft? And then how do we grade them / how do we feel they match up against us? And then what do we think the ultimate outcome will be, a win or a loss? And so Mike and I have gone through this a bunch of times, and it's been tough because looking at these teams and how they stack up against us, we're very confident in our trajectory versus theirs.
Well, we think we have a great roster. We're very optimistic about our direction this year. So we want to put W's on wherever we can, but we still have to be a little bit pragmatic about it. So I think we did that, but we can't help but put our rose-colored glasses on for some of it.
Exactly. So, and we won't spoil our records in the beginning, but tune in till the end and you'll see, the total wins and losses for Mike and I. So, all right, let's just jump straight into it. Let's go with the Raiders, Mike. This is a really interesting matchup. A lot of different themes going on here. Tell me about it.
So, the first thing is we have the Raiders Week 1. That's our home opener at 1 p.m. on Sunday, September 7th. And we think it was scheduled this way for a reason. There's a lot of intrigue. Tom Brady's coming back. He's a minority owner for the Raiders right now. So that's going to be a huge storyline. He's going to be in the building. He's going to be getting many, many different accolades.
Over under on number of Tom Brady shots.
Can we quantify it in like quintuplets?
Right.
Sextuplets. 8 times 8,000. How about that?
There you go.
Every chance they get, unless he decides to hide, which, that would be his right too. But it should be an electric atmosphere to open the season against the Raiders. And it's about the Raiders themselves and how they match up with us. We'll go over some of the stuff that some of these teams did in the offseason, and as far as what they did, didn't really strike fear into the hearts of us at all. Basically, the biggest thing they did was sign Geno Smith. He's going to be their next quarterback. And they re-signed Max Crosby to a huge guaranteed deal, which he deserved that. But for the most part, these guys kind of stayed par for the course. I don't think they got a lot better. They lost a bunch of guys too, and they didn't necessarily replace them. I mean, they had a decent draft with Ashton Jeanty, the stud running back, Jack Besh, the wide receiver out of TCU, which we both loved.
Yep.
We liked that guy.
Solid pickup.
So they had some good pieces. Charles Grant in the third round is a tackle, developmental. Dante Thornton, a wide receiver in the fourth round. He's going to be a pretty good player, I feel. He was a late-round sleeper. But as far as their overall direction, I know they have Pete Carroll on board, and he's optimism through the roof. A real rah-rah guy, let's get out there and let's go get him. So he's going to have his team ready to play. They just don't have a heck of a lot of talent on this team. I think we match up very well with them. Our secondary is going to be able to lock up their secondary. I've talked about maybe shadowing Brock Bowers, who's their biggest weapon, with one of our corners, one of our boundary corners, just to keep an eye on the guy, because I don't want Kyle Duggar doing it. But if you do that and match up with the other guys, I think we can shut their offense down easily. Their defense is not scary in any way whatsoever, and I think the Josh McDaniels offense, the new scheme, is going to completely exploit that. So I'm pretty confident about this matchup. Overall, for the Raiders offseason, I give them about a C. But as far as what we're going to do against them in week one, I give us a W on that one. I think we take the Raiders and we take them pretty handily.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. I think the biggest thing that scares me about this team is they're going to run the ball, right? They got Raheem Mostert. They got Ashton Jeanty. Geno Smith he's not a real dual threat quarterback. And so I'm a little worried about teams that can run the football because we're not sure what we're going to get. We got news today about Christian Barmore. They're saying he's going to be ready for week one.
That'd be great.
We got Milton Williams, right? We got Joshua Farmer. We got, a lot of big bodies in the middle of the field. Keon White even, Mike and I were talking about him. So you got a lot of guys that I think can stop the run, but we don't know how this new unit's going to gel together and how it's going to fare. So I do feel confident that this will be a W. It's our home opener, and we got all the juice going into this game, forever to prepare for the Raiders. And Geno Smith, honestly, he's a great game manager, but is he going to throw it 30 times and beat us? I doubt it, right? So
he can try.
He can try. And Brock Bowers, he's a special talent. So we're going to have to game plan specifically for him. But then they have other weapons. They have Jacoby Myers. They have Jack Besh. They have, obviously, Ashton Jeanty. So, yeah, I think it's a W. I think we're both solid on that.
All across the board, yeah.
All right.
So moving on to week 2, we're on the road. We're facing the Dolphins in Miami. It's also a 1 o'clock game. And as far as the Dolphins, we've spoken about them in length when we did our AFC East breakdown last week. But we're pretty underwhelmed about their overall offseason. I mean, they re-signed Bradley Chubb. They didn't really sign any notable free agency acquisitions. They lost a bunch of guys. Your Javon Hollins of the world, your Calais Campbell, your Raheem Mostert. And they have Jalen Ramsey on the trade block, so I don't know who's starting.
Right. And Tyreek Hill, is he going to stay? Is he not?
Yeah, he's a malcontent. So it feels very unsettled in Miami right now. I didn't like what they did with the draft either.
The draft was a complete fail.
I thought they overdrafted Kenneth Grant. I thought they overdrafted Jordan Savanaya. And then they left out a bunch of guys that they bailed on the 3rd and 4th round picks, which we all consider the meat and potatoes of the draft because that's where we got the value. Like, for example, we got 3 stars in the 3rd and 4th round when you put it all together. And they just completely missed that part of the draft, which is what the strength of it was. So the Dolphins are losing pieces. They're not gaining that much. I don't see their direction. I think that their Mike McDaniel, their coach, and their front office, all those people are on the hot seat. Because if they don't make the playoffs this year, these guys are going to be gone. And I don't have much confidence in them making the playoffs because their defense is not that good. Their offense is still dynamic. They still have Tyreek Hill, Jaden Waddle, Devin Achane, and Tua, as long as he stays healthy. But one bad crack on the head and his career is over. So I still like their offense. It's pretty dynamic. So for this particular one, I'm going to take an L on this because we're going down to Miami in week 2, and we always lose in Miami early in the season when it's like 90 plus degrees out there. It's just historically been what it's been about. So I'm taking an L on this one. I think it could go either way, but I'm giving Miami the benefit of the doubt because we're still going to try to find our footing, and they will at least know what they're doing on offense. So I'm going to give it to Miami.
Yeah, I could see it going that way, Mike. I do think, however, I feel like this team, like you were saying before, is in an identity crisis. So, in my opinion, I think we're going to take this game. I think at the end of the season, we're going to see Miami really questioning, and they might even do it mid-season. I could see them trading a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Ramsey mid-season, given
something's going to happen.
Could be something. Could be a Tua injury. Could be, who knows, right? Just wins and losses, and things could start to shake up where they end up blowing it up. And I personally think they should, right? They don't have the long-term answer at quarterback, which is the biggest question mark in the NFL at this point. And so, yeah, I'm going with a win here. I'm saying this is the Miami's Dolphins kind of swan song season of this whole team, and it's going to get blown up.
They might be. It very well might be. We'll see. So the next week, week 3, we're hosting the Steelers. It's another 1 p.m. game. The Steelers have also had a questionable offseason as far as I'm concerned. They didn't really make too many moves. What are the biggest moves that they made that we thought were cool?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, the Steelers brought in DK Metcalf, right? And they shipped out George Pickens. And so
that's kind of a wash, right?
It's kind of a wash. I mean, the DK Metcalf, sure, he's a better character guy than Pickens. Pickens is kind of a head case. You don't really, you shipped out Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, so you didn't keep either of those. Now you're kind of stuck with Mason Rudolph and potentially Aaron Rodgers. We'll see what happens there, but
good luck with
that. You got a lot of more questions than answers there, and you brought in Kenneth Gainwell. He's a good depth piece. You drafted Caleb Johnson, so clearly you see him as your bell cow, and you still have Tyler Warren. So I see this team as a run-first team, and that has the ability to run some play action with Pat Freiermuth, you got DK Metcalf, you got Calvin Austin. You got some good players that can get after it deep. And so, you take a team that can run with obviously their strength being their defense because, they're a great tackling team. They're
always sound on defense.
They're always sound on defense,
yeah.
Right? So this is where you have a team that's struggling a little bit with the quarterback, but I think Aaron Rodgers signs, and I think this team gives us a tough time. I really do. And it's just one of those things where it's early in the season. If this was later in the season and we were rolling or we were, had our identity figured out, maybe we beat this team. But Mike Tomlin's tough. Mike Tomlin is no matter who's out there, he's gonna coach them up.
So you're giving us an L for this one?
I think I am. Yeah,
wow.
I think I'm giving us an L on this one.
Joseph with the pragmatism.
Yeah, it's tough because they don't have a quarterback right now, but I do think it's going to be Rodgers. And even without Rodgers, could Mason Rudolph still do it? Maybe, maybe not.
We'll see.
What do you think?
I think it's marginal. Honestly, I think no matter who they have, whether it's Rodgers or Mason Rudolph, the end result's going to end up being the same.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers did nothing to reinforce my belief that he's still a franchise quarterback in this league based on last year. So I'm fine with however they want to do that. The Steelers, they didn't have a great offseason, but they're still the Steelers. They did have a couple good draft picks, as you mentioned. I love the guy Jack Sawyer. They took the edge in round 4 out of Ohio State. I love him. And I don't think that they're that great of a team, but it just seems like a trap game for us where the Steelers are a sound enough unit to where they could overcome whatever it is that we throw at them because Mike Tomlin's a fantastic coach. So I'm going to give the Steelers the benefit of the doubt on this. I'm going to go ahead and take a loss. I think Pittsburgh, no matter what, he's almost like Belichick, Tomlin is, with no matter what roster he has, he always brings the best out of all of his people. And they got a revamped running game right now, which is their bread and butter. They got DK Metcalf, who I think is a one-trick pony, but they're going to at least try to utilize him in different ways. So I can see them stealing this one off of us. So
it's early in the season, right? So we have to look at it and say,
we're still getting our feet wet.
Yeah, we got to start to gel. The coaching situation's going to take some time to get their identity set up from an offensive and a defensive perspective. A lot of new names, a lot of new players. So
exactly, yeah. So, I'm just trying to be practical about it. Like, we still might be getting our sea legs under us in this first quadrant of the season. But, that might change.
Yeah.
That might change based on the following week, because that following week we're hosting the Carolina Panthers in week 4. That's a 1 o'clock game. And the Panthers, they're a little bit of an enigma right now, only because I think that they have improved with their new coaching staff, with Dave Canales. And I think they had a good draft, and they've been building some good young pieces. They're nowhere near where they need to be, but they've been getting better.
Picks, I think that's what it's come down to, right, over the years.
Absolutely. And, you know, as far as their free agency, they didn't do a whole heck of a lot. They signed Andy Dalton to be Bryce Young's backup again. Signed Rico Dowdle as
good depth piece.
Yeah, exactly. He's a depth piece. David Moore, the wide receiver, and Hunter Renfrow, the guy that was out of the league selling insurance last year. So I'm not knocking the guy, but you know, he's been out of football for a while. You know, they lost some people. They lost Miles Sanders. They lost Jadeveon Clowney, Shaq Thompson. I think a lot of those things were of their choice. But as far as their draft, I think that they had a good draft.
Yeah, I think they crushed it, especially in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah, I think Ted McMillan at number 8 is great value. I think he's going to pair up very well with Xavier Legette, or Legette, depending on who you talk to.
I love that guy's interviews. Oh, man.
Yeah, he's something else. Those are going to be 2 good perimeter guys for them. And they also picked 2 of my draft darlings. They got Nick Scorton, the edge out of Texas A&M. In the second round, they got Trevor Etienne out of Georgia, the running back, in the 4th round. I liked all those guys. So I generally think the Panthers are on an upward trajectory because of the youth of their roster, the fact that Dave Canales was able to basically fix Bryce Young, because his rookie year he was an absolute train wreck, which was unfortunate. But they're heading in the right direction right now. But their coaching staff and roster is not on our level. I'm definitely taking a W on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we were looking at this and saying, how do they win this game? In what way? I mean, the only way I see it is, you know, Chuba Hubbard runs for 150 yards or 200, something crazy, right? Where we just cannot stop Chuba Hubbard. Because, you know, Ted McMillan, let's face it, he's a rookie. And he's got Gonzo on him the whole game. So good luck with that. I'm taking Gonzo 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, and Legette.
So it's we're going to see this theme all season of where if these guys can stay healthy, if we have these corners all season, and you have premier talent, good luck, because this is what these guys do for a living.
Absolutely. So yeah, we both have easy wins with those guys.
So you're at 2-2, and I'm at 3-1. I mean, still, I mean, it's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I would have liked myself to be more optimistic than 2-2, but I'm just calling it like I see it right now.
Yeah, the hyper-realism has to set in, right? We have to be the ones that give the realistic takes.
So we'll see. And the good thing about that first quarter of the season, these are all winnable games. So we're going to really test our mettle to see how competitive we are against teams that are comparable to our talent, because then the next litmus test is the big dogs coming up with week 5.
All right, Mike, we got a big matchup to talk about here. Probably the first real test of our schedule, and not one of many, but definitely a huge one. So let's talk about the Bills, Mike.
So yeah, the Bills, we've had a fairly easy schedule up until now, and then this is really going to be our litmus test, week 5, on the road, going up into Bills territory. It's going to be a Sunday night game, so it's going to be a pretty high-profile game. So we're looking forward to it because we really think that's the first benchmark of, can we actually hang? You know, we're trying to endeavor to be a wild card team, and hanging with the Bills will tell us whether we're even close to that or not, you know.
Yeah.
Especially this early in the season, it's going to be a good benchmark. As far as what the Bills have done this offseason, we've talked about it extensively in the last episode when we did the whole AFC East. But the bottom line is that they lost a couple guys, they gained a couple guys. On aggregate, their talent level stayed the same, which is fine for the Bills because their talent levels are already very high. So they just need to maintain par. They lost some guys on defense, but then they drafted a bunch of good guys on defense. You know, Maxwell Hairston in the first round, that corner, he's good. TJ Sanders, the DT, he's good. Landon Jackson, the edge in the 3rd round, I think he's great. I think these guys are all starters right away. So they replenished their defense. They're still the Bills. They're still looking strong. They didn't get marginally better, but they're still the Bills, and I don't think we're there yet. So I'm taking an L on this one as well.
Yeah, I mean they're like you said, they're kind of par for their course. They brought in Joey Bosa. He's obviously more of a sack specialist at this point in his career. And they brought back Tre'Davious White. They had a lot of young guys in their corners. So you bring back Tre'Davious White. You got Khair Elam. You got now Hairston. You got these guys that are going to strengthen their secondary, and which was a weak point for them last year. Their coverage and I believe their tackling was near the lowest in the league according to PFF. So you have the Bills who are strong and they will maintain strong. The whole team runs through Josh Allen. The receivers are no one of note, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid. They throw to James Cook. Dawson Knox is in there as a kind of more of a traditional inline tight end, but he catches touchdowns. So they're going to spread the ball, and these guys get 7 to 9 yards after the catch. So at any point in the game, you're going to see Josh Allen extending plays 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds long, and teams can't cover these guys for that long. So they get them open in space, and then they get yards after the catch. That's just the team they are. And McDermott, no matter who's back there, the defense is not going to lose them the game, right? So that's what you get. And with the Bills, this early in the season in Buffalo, primetime game, I hope if we actually stay in this game, then that says a lot to me. We don't have to win this game for.
It'd be nice to be a good competitive game.
Yeah, good competitive game. So I agree. It's a loss. It's too early in the season. We're going to be kind of putting the pieces together still. We're going to be still identifying who can do what and who looks good on paper versus, okay, now what do they actually do in the game? So this is an easy L, I think, to start the season.
Yeah, it's our first tough test, and thankfully we get that out of the way in week 5. Because the next stretch here, it does not scare us at all.
Yeah.
With some of the next guys that we have coming up. We have our only afternoon game on week 6 against the New Orleans Saints. All the other ones are either 1 p.m. or in prime time. But as far as it comes to the opponent with the Saints, again, it's tough to gauge their off-season because they're not overwhelming anybody at all. I don't even know.
More questions than answers. I mean, that's the only way to put it, right? There's more. Where do they have answers? I just don't even know at this point with this. They have aging veterans that shouldn't be on the team, and if it was me, I would probably trade them at this point. Cam Jordan, Alvin Kamara, right?
Yeah.
I think these guys that are like sure things. But other than that, you got some guys that are a lot of question marks. I mean, Derek Carr retiring is a huge storyline here, but you got Tyler Show, who's probably going to start games this year, right?
Is that what you want?
And so it's very tough to even imagine a W in this situation. And so
you mean an L?
Sorry, an L. Yeah,
we can't take an L on this.
I meant a W for them, but anyways. So I Brandon Cooks. You brought back Brandon Cooks, who's been there and been everywhere. And
if that's your big name signing, then I don't know what to tell you.
So it's tough. It's tough to be a Saints fan right now. It's for sure. And if we lose this game, good Lord.
Yeah, it would be rough. I mean, they signed a couple guys, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Dante Pettis in the wide receiver room. Those guys don't move the needle
at all.
They got Devon Godshaw, our nose tackle. They sent a 5th-round pick to grab that guy. They can have him. They still have Cam Jordan, who's a stud. He'll always be a stud. But, they did lose a couple guys. Derek Carr, I think that is significant because now you have a combination of the Tyler Shook kid and Spencer Rattler and Jay Kaner. Those are going to be the guys that are competing for quarterback. So whichever one of these guys we face, are you afraid of those guys?
You can't be. It's again, this is another situation where they're going to have to run the ball between Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara, and that's the only thing I can see that makes any sense for them to score points because who else is going to kill us? Is it Juwan Johnson? Are we going to get beat by Juwan Johnson? Chris Olave obviously is still there, but I don't know. If I'm them, I might be trading him.
I mean, he's injury prone, and he hasn't really shown that much.
He flashes, and he's put together some tape, but they're way more than Chris Olave away from being any bit competitive. So
for sure, and they didn't do that much to address in the draft. They got Kelvin Banks, the tackle at number 9. I think that's good value. I'm happy that we got Will Campbell over him. I know we went higher, and I know that's a polarizing opinion, but he should be serviceable. Again, they drafted the kid Tyler Shook, but other than that, they didn't have that much of a great draft at all. And not to mention the fact that this team is one of the few teams that is in perpetual cap hell. They're over the cap.
Yeah,
they still
wild.
in the corner. It's like, how, if you're one of the worst teams in the league, you're still having these financial troubles.
And we lead the league in cap space. I think
space.
last time I checked, we're at 61 million.
Yeah. And
this,
Mickey Loomis is regarded as one of the best GMs in the league, and I'm like, what are you quantifying that by?
Yeah.
Because the fiscal bottom line doesn't make sense. So yes, Joe and I are unequivocally believe that.
Next.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to beat this team, and I think we're going to beat them pretty handily, even if it is in New Orleans. So we don't mind about that, and we don't mind about the next one either, because we're going to the Saints, and this is our road trip. We go to the Bills, tough. We go to the Saints, cool.
Easy.
We can chill in Louisiana, in New Orleans for a
Little
little
Bourbon
bit.
Street action, yeah.
And then we can run right up to Tennessee, see some live
Broadway.
Yeah, we can get some live country music in Tennessee.
I went to the Titans game last year. It's a fun atmosphere.
Yeah,
and they're getting a new stadium, I think, in 2026.
Yeah,
but it was still electric outside of the ending, which Mayo watched for us, which was nice.
Yes, he did. Drake tried to win it, and Mayo tried and succeeded in losing it. But yeah, we're going up to Tennessee. That's another 1 p.m. game. That's in week 7. The Tennessee Titans haven't done anything to scare anybody. Their big thing that they did this offseason was draft Cam Ward. And
that's it. Yeah, pretty much.
I don't believe in Cam Ward.
No,
I just
not
don't.
a fan.
I just don't straight up. I don't believe in him. He's going to have to prove it to me. They haven't done really anything in free agency. They signed Dan Moore, who's the left tackle, the marginal left tackle out of Pittsburgh.
I did like Tyler Lockett because you got a very young receiving room over there, and obviously he's long in the tooth, but 1 year, $4 million deal, and you bring him in, and he sits next to some of the guys they have in the wide receiver room. But
easy, quick deal for them. They signed Van Jefferson at receiver, who's also a complete journeyman. So they didn't do that much. Their draft, aside from Cam Ward, who I didn't like that pick either, I don't really like too many of their picks, to be quite honest.
I like Kevin Winston. I think that's a solid safety pick. That kid's...
You do like Kevin Winston.
Yeah, he's a great tackler. He's all over the field. He's not quite a ball hawk, but he's definitely a guy who can get after it. He kind of reminds me a lot of Brian Branch, maybe a Brian Branch plus. I don't know, but he's definitely a great. And Gunnar Helm was another guy that I kind of wanted the Patriots to draft.
Like that.
Yeah, so Gunnar Helm's a great receiving Hunter Henry-esque kind of player.
Yeah, I like him. I want us to pick him.
And Alec Ayamanor was clearly great value at that point. So they went heavy in the 3s and 4s there. They had 3 fourth round picks. And so but it's all hinges on the back of Cam Ward, right? Is Cam Ward a starter? What is he?
The jury is so far out on that, it's not even funny. And, I've pointed out to you before that they're in more of a rebuild stage than we are, and they had a year head start. When they fired Vrabel and brought this other kid in, his roster is still nowhere near what our roster is right now based on the moves that we made. So, congratulations, Tennessee, on firing the wrong coach.
Right.
Okay? One man's trash is another man's treasure, and we're very glad that you did that because Vrabel could not have been a more perfect hire from this end.
Yes.
Especially after the Mayo debacle. And we'll devote several segments about Vrabel and what he means to the Patriots and what we think about him. But, good luck, Tennessee, because he's going to go nuts trying to go out of his way to stick it to these guys. I got us down for a win against these guys.
It's a W.5. Yeah.
All day long, and there's really not that much to add, to be quite honest with you.
Nope.
So we'll move right along.
So I'm 5-2, and you're 4-3. All right.
At this stage of the game, okay, we have a running tally. So Joe, you're still there. I'm 4-3. Ooh, I'm teetering on 500.
We'll see how we go.
I'm being really pessimistic right now.
Right.
I need to kind of curtail that. But
now we got the Browns, though. This is going to be a tough one, Mike.
Yeah, that Browns squad.
Oh God, yeah, Joe Flacco.
They got me up at nights. I mean, again, this is like a recurring theme, which is the greatest problem to have.
Yes,
is saying all of our opponents are in the same boat as rebuilding a little bit redundant and not doing much for upward mobility. You know, what have these guys done? They brought Joe Flacco back. They got Kenny Pickett in here. Come on.
On wide receivers.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
you re-signed Myles Garrett, which I would have traded him at this point in his career and what they need to do.
Yeah, it's the biggest contract ever, but they're the Browns.
They got a Brown. Browns got a Brown, bro.
That's what they do. They don't run their front office very good. I think as far as their draft, they didn't do that bad in their draft because they fleeced the Jags to bail out of that number 2
That's the
pick.
highlight of the offseason.
Yeah, for them, they fleeced the Jags. They still got Mason Graham, the DT of number 5, at number 5 overall, who I think is going to be a perfect complement to Myles Garrett because he can push the interior and just let Myles eat on whoever was not paying attention to him.
Yep.
It might be a little bit tougher to double Myles Garrett now. So that was a good pick. Their linebacker Carson Schweschinger, I got it. Great pick. Quinshawn Judkins, running back Ohio State. Great pick. Tight end Harold Fannin Jr., great pick.
I like that pick too a lot. The Gabriel Dillon one's, I think, the only one that both of us were like, I don't know.
Well, Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback out of Oregon, that would have been fine, but he's super undersized. It would have been fine until they went for value and drafted Shadur Sanders. So I'm just telling you that that's a recipe for disaster with that whole quarterback room.
I don't know why they do this themselves, but maybe they're just like, hey, more pokers in the fire. We got to get a quarterback. But you did get Dylan Sampson.
I like Dylan
So the
Sampson,
combination of Quinshawn Judkins and Dylan Sampson is very good. Very, thunder and lightning-esque.
Thunder and lightning, yeah.
So I think those guys get heavy touts right away. I mean, you got no more Nick Chubb. They let go of Elijah Moore, so their offense is going through quite a change. You got Jerry Jeudy still there. You still got the tight end there, Njoku.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on offense, you're going to see probably a lot of pounding the rock, and you're going to see Joe Flacco taking deep shots to Njoku and Jerry Jeudy. But, again, you're going to hear this the whole episode. Jerry Jeudy is going to be a non-factor with our two corners completely. And then you got Njoku, Njoku can beat anybody with his size, and he's a freak, athletic freak. So, could they do some things? Yeah, but they got too many young people and Joe Flacco, who's at some point, he's not going to be able to throw those rainbow lollipop
jump ball Joe.
Jump ball Joe. So I don't see how this is an L. I just I can't envision a world where we lose to the Browns in this roster.
That's a W.
W and a half.
That is a W. And so with that, moving on to our next home game. These are 2 back-to-back home games. Week 9 home against the Falcons at 1. Penix, and he's going to end up being a good player. But I don't know when or how he's going to be able to put that together.
I have to see more. There's not a lot of tape on Michael Penix at this point. I think where he can beat us is when you're guessing if Bijan's going to get the ball or not. On play action, that could hurt if you're stacking the box. But again, it comes down to who is in our secondary. We drafted Craig Woodson. We already have Duggar. We got Peppers, and we have our 2 corners. So am I afraid of Drake London? No. Am I afraid of Kyle Pitts? I don't think anyone is. I don't even know if they think he's the guy anymore. I think that every year I see it in fantasy. It's like, oh, this is the year. This is the year for Kyle Pitts. And it's like,
this is really the make or break year for him.
It's unbelievable. So, and then you got Bijan, who is a generational Saquon level.
He's a beast.
He's the guy is a highlight reel at any point in the game. So, yes, I think that they run through Bijan, and can Michael Penix with his legs or his arm make any big plays? It's possible, but I don't know. It's going to be tough.
They didn't really add too much as far as weapons for him at all.
Right.
They re-signed Kadaro Hodge, the wide receiver, and Jamal Agnew. I mean, what are we doing here?
And the draft, they've devoted their draft entirely to these 2 edge rushers. So they got Jalen Walker, and then they traded up to get another first rounder and get James Pierce, which is great because their defense was god awful. They tried to bring in Judon, which that didn't work out. Worked out for us. Thanks a lot.
Indeed.
But they got Xavier Watts, who's a complete ball hawk. This guy is all over the field and gets picks, and he's a great leader. But their draft is 5 players.
Yeah, and that's it.
And so it's going to be tough. But I think, Mike, that they beat us in this game, and I think solely based on the fact that a player like Bijan Robinson, I could see running amok on us and us not having an answer to that. And I think it'll be from a defensive perspective on their end. I think if we don't have our identity figured out by then and this offense isn't clicking, then they can take one from us. I really do. I feel like it's possible.
Yeah, I certainly feel like this could be a trap game. Basically about what you said about their offense. It does have the potential to be dynamic. I'm going to go with a win against this team.
Yep.
Just because
could go either way.
Yeah, because I just don't think that they're really there yet. They're going to have a young team, but they also lost a lot of guys. You know, they lost Drew Dahlman, who's their center. He left for the Bears for big money. They lost Judon, who was marginal for them, but they lost Grady Jarrett. They lost Philip Dorsett and Rondale Moore, who didn't do that much for them. They tight end Ross Dwelly, but the point is they lost a lot of guys.
That they a lot of new talent coming in.
They didn't replenish, so I'm going with the W for that one.
Awesome.
And we're glad that we actually disagree on stuff. We have trouble figuring out what we're going to disagree on.
That's right. It's tough. It's not easy.
We have to speak from the heart, and sometimes it speaks the same way. But in this particular case, I definitely agree to disagree on that one. And then for the next week, week 10, we're on the road against the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's another 1 p.m. game. As far as the Bucks go, I think they also stayed part of the course, too. They didn't do too much. They re-signed Chris Godwin, who we tried to massively overpay. We didn't overpay, which I'm perfectly fine with.
I think now that we're sitting where we are, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. They did get Hassan Reddick, so if they paid him right and he shows up, and they should be in
a lot of ifs.
You know, they should be in good shape. They re-signed Levante David, who has just been an absolute linchpin in the middle of their defense for years. They did lose a couple guys: Chase Edmonds, Shaq Barrett, Cho Tran, Shoyinka, William Golston. Nothing too insurmountable for them to overcome, because they did some stuff to address that in the draft, but they took Emeka Egbuka, the receiver from Ohio State, and I poo-poo this pick, but Joe will point out to me that they're going to need somebody waiting in the wings, because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are long in the tooth. So they're going to have Jalen McMillan, who they drafted, and then him as the understudies. So he's going to be an immediate slot player for them, and then understudy on the other positions as well.
And Godwin has shown some injury issues too, so they just re-signed him. I think he's 28 or so. So he's getting to that, and then Evans is 32, 33.
I think Godwin's 29, and Evans is 32.
So we're getting to the point now where it's all right, if Godwin gets hurt again, Mike Evans has an obvious hamstring issue. It always crops up every season, and they always push him in the games, and I'm like, stop, give this guy time to rest. And I get it, you need him, but
seriously.
But Egbuka is widely known as the most pro-ready receiver in the draft, and so I like it. And then they had a few more draft picks, Mike, that I kind of like. Benjamin Morrison at corner. They were kind of devout at cornerback.
Oh, yeah, you like that guy.
I like Benjamin Morrison. He's a tough guy. Jacob Parrish, I didn't scout him too much. But they addressed defense. They went to receiver, and then they went straight to the defense. And so they got 2 corners, 2 edge guys. And so this is a game where I think we lose. Baker Mayfield, you got Bucky Irving, you got a stout offense, and usually a stout defense too, right? So I think we lose this game. I think it's fairly close, but I think they win.
I put it down as a loss for us as well. For a lot of the things that he just said, that offense is a finely tuned machine right now with Baker Mayfield running it. They tailored it completely to his strengths of pushing the ball downfield, and he has 2 guys that can do that. And then you're going to have the younger kids are going to be open on the underneath routes. Bucky Irving is a stud.
Electric.
Absolute stud.
Dynamic. Does everything.
So I think they're one of the better teams. I think they're one of the better teams, period, in the NFC. I know that's a strong statement, but I think that
they're right in the mix.
Yeah, I think they can bother people and make some noise. I believe in Baker Mayfield. I think that he's a baller, and he just needed the right situation.
Yep.
I think he's really going to blossom and thrive. I think he's going to have a monster year, and I think he's going to beat us in this particular matchup.
For sure.
So we agree on that too.
We do.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. All right. So next up is week 11 at home against the Jets. We like some of the stuff they did as far as re-signing Jamie and Sherwood and Alan Lazar. That's marginal. But the biggest thing that they did, obviously, was sign Justin Fields to a 2-year, $40 million, which he's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be the man. And like we've talked about before, that does not scare us at all.
It's like the rebound girlfriend, right? This is like you had Aaron Rodgers, you had the crazy ex-girlfriend, and now you get the rebound, which is Justin Fields.
Yeah, we're not afraid of it. Listen, he's a very dynamic talent.
He's going to bring a lot to the offense.
He's a rare athlete,
Yeah.
and I'll talk about that in a minute. As far as the draft picks, they did have a good draft as well.
Yeah.
I like their draft.
Their arrow's pointing up versus the Dolphins, which is pointing down.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Membu, the tackle at number 7, he's going to be a stud right tackle for years. Mason Taylor, the tight end they took in the 2nd round, I love him. I had him mocked to us. I would have loved to grab him. Azariah Thomas, the corner in the 3rd round, was a little bit of a steal because he had injury concerns, but he's a plug-and-play starter for them right away. But as far as the way we match up against them, and I've said it a bunch of times, they're going to have to run a gimmicky, gadgety type of offense.
Yep.
Whether that be RPOs or what have you, he's not going to be able to sit back there in a classic read style.
He's a one-read quarterback.
Yeah, because that's not what he does. So if you play him the right way, if you spy him with your linebacker and you keep containing on the edges and you bracket his number 1, he only goes through his number 1 read, and once that's not there, he tries to bail. And if you keep everybody else in zone, so where they're looking at him, and the one guy is bracketed, and he's contained and spied, there's nowhere for him to go, because every zone's covered, and everybody's looking at him. That's when you get into big trouble with this guy, when everybody plays man up, and they're all running away and looking the other way.
You're bailing out, and you give him a whole lane to just run. And
which would be fine
it.
if they just spied him, but I see so many teams not do that. It drives me nuts.
And he runs for 50, 60 yards to the house.
So if they just, I'm not saying that they're going to do this, but if they do it, that would be a brilliant game plan against them. So it's just too easy to take away his strengths now. Their run game is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
It's going to be brilliant. They have 2 stud running backs plus Justin Fields. They have a road-grading offensive line. I think that's going to be great. But as Joe points out, they're always going to be facing stacked boxes, 80 to 90% stacked boxes. So we're going to dare him to throw over us, and we just happen to have 2 of the best cover corners in the league. So you do what you want with that one. I'm taking a win on this one all day long.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't have too much to add to it, Mike. I think, they did a great thing with Azariah Thomas, and they strengthened up their offensive line. Azariah Thomas with Sauce Gardner, and then all the front, Tremaine Johnson, you got Quinnen Williams, you got, you name it, right? They have a great front. And so from a defensive side, they're going to give us some fits, but from an offensive side, it's very one-dimensional in my opinion. You can throw in the RPOs, you can do all these things, but at the end of the day, Garrett Wilson's gone. He might as well sit the bench. Let's just take him and Gonzo off the field. We'll play 10 on 10 because that's what it's going to be like. And, it's a win. It's at home. We've had 10 weeks now to work out this team and to get to build our identity. Unless there's major injuries on our side, I don't see how we lose this game.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. So that brings us right into Week 12. We're on the road. We're going up against the Bengals. That's a 1 p.m. slate, which I like. Nice and low-key, just the way I like it. As far as the Bengals, they don't impress me either with what they did. What do? They re-signed their big dogs.
Yeah, they gave a $250 million plus to 2 receivers, which, both you and I are well on record for saying that was not the right move, but Bengals got a Bengal, I guess.
And I've said it, the longer you wait, the more expensive that player is going to become.
Yeah.
And these guys were eligible for so much longer than when they actually got done. I have no sympathy for the Bengals.
Every time a receiver gets signed, every single time, you're just up in the price, up in the price, up in the price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't like Trey Hendrickson. They're doing him dirty, the defensive end, who had 17 and a half sacks 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
The fact that they're doing him dirty, this is the Bengals. This is the kind of franchise that they are. I think I mentioned to you that one of their vice presidents was like, well, if Trey Hendrickson doesn't like his number, then he should learn to be happier with a lower number.
Ouch.
If I heard that as a player, I would be like,
ship me out.
You value me 0.
Yeah, and guess what? Guess what every team in the NFL, contenders, non-contenders want? They want a pass rush.
Exactly.
And they need a pass rush.
And then they put the nail in the coffin when he was Hendrickson. I can say it. Hendrickson is texting with his coach, Zach Taylor, a month before mandatory camps, and Zach Taylor saying, if you don't show up to camp, you're going to get fined. So this guy's like, all right, not only are they not working on my contract, they don't plan on even looking at it for at least another 30 days, and I want it done 3 months ago. So it's just the Bengals being the Bengals. They shot themselves in the foot. They always mismanage their cap. They're frugal to a fault until their hand is forced. I don't see any of this going well. They're too top heavy. They're not going to be able to fill out a proper roster. However,
they are still the Bengals, and they are electric on offense, and they're going to be the biggest test that we've had outside of the Bills.
They still have that offense. It's a dynamic offense.
Yeah, Joe Burrow can throw for 50 points, and you
got to look out for it. Look, I'm putting us down as an L for this one.
I think so too. I think this is it's accurate.
I can poo-poo them all I want, but when it comes down to pen and paper, what X's and O's right down on the field, they might be able to out-execute us.
Yes.
And by the time we get there, at that point, we might be on two different playing fields. They might not even be playoff contenders for all I know. We might not be playoff contenders for all I know.
Yeah.
But the way it looks right now, I think we match up very well. They're just more weathered than us. And
right.
Their offense is more polished, so that's why I'm giving us an L on that one.
I do like how we match up against them, but yeah, I think it's an L. I think let's look at their draft though real quick. Yeah, Shamar Stewart, we're both not in love with that.
Yeah.
Their draft is pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
And who they lost, Khalil Herb. I mean, yeah, nothing really noteworthy there.
No, nothing is.
Sheldon Rankins.
They lost Trent Brown. Boo hoo.
Right.
You can have
Sheldon
that
Rankins
guy.
is to the Texans, but yeah. So their defense is.
Alex Kappa was a good guard. He ended up going to the Raiders, but I mean that's marginal. You know?
So I don't think they got much better through the draft. So their defense is pretty bad, and then their offense is electric and can score at any point in the game, however many points they want.
And Joe, we got to pick L's somewhere.
Yeah, you're right. And that could very easily be a W, right? We won't hark on it anymore.
This is another fun game. On Week 13, home against the Giants. We're hosting them.
I'm excited. Monday night game against the Giants.
Monday Night Football against a winnable opponent. I think that's going to be a good deal. The Giants are another team that doesn't do anything to impress me at all as far as the moves that they made.
I feel like the draft was good. I'll give them the draft.
The draft was pretty good. I'll get to that in a second. But, you sign Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, and none of those guys scare me at all.
Yeah, they're prove-it deals. They're, placeholders for Jackson Dart, essentially, is what they are.
Yeah, so and you got Zach Pascal, and they re-signed Darius Slayton. Those are very average receivers, so they didn't really do too much to bolster their offense. As far as the people that they lost, I mean, that's marginal too. They lost Adoree Jackson, Isaiah Simmons, and Drew Lock. And nobody's missing Drew Lock.
No. So it's really just comes down to the draft.
Yeah, the draft was good. I mean, they got Abdul Carter at number 3. It's an absolute no-brainer.
If they didn't take him, we would have been laughing.
Yeah, I don't love the fit because they have 2 edge guys over there already, in Brian Banks and Kayvon Thibodeau, but like I say, you can never have too many edge guys. So this guy will come in and be a situational pass rusher right off the bat to grow into an every down guy down the line. And then they traded up to get Jackson Dart, the QB out of Mississippi. And
could be good, could be bad.
I'm not too high on him. I wouldn't have traded up to get him, but they were desperate. They had to do something. The Giants have to do something.
He apparently wowed them in a lot of the pre-draft interviews. So.
Well, I think they're just putting it against their interview they had with Shadur Sanders.
Well, yeah.
So based on everything, Brian Daboll and Shadur Sanders weren't impressed with each other in any way whatsoever. So they pivoted to this one. And they got a couple of the guys that we really like. Darius Alexander from Toledo, the DT, in round 3. Cam Scatterbo, the running back out of Ohio State. We love him.
Big fan.
Marcus Embo is a guard out of Purdue. And I love Thomas Fidone, too, the tight end from Nebraska. I wanted him, but like I've said before, we got C.J. Dipray undrafted, and I think they're the same player. So I'm not too jealous about it. But this team is still going to be the Giants. They didn't do anything to markedly improve themselves. I don't see us having any kind of problem with this team at all. I think it's going to be a high-profile, Good Monday night win for us.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. I think on defense they could still give us some fits. If anything, right, they can get after Drake May. But are we going to be able to run the ball on them? Yeah. I don't see why not. I mean, there's nothing on that defensive roster outside of the edge rushers that really cause me any concern as far as being able to get to the edge, get up the middle. We've revamped our offensive line. And so, yeah, I think we're gonna win that war of the trenches with them.
Absolutely, we're all in on beating the Giants, and then that leads us into
the bye. All right, Mike. So we're just out of the bye now, and we got the Bills for the second time. So I'm feeling pretty good about this, Mike. I think this late in the season, we're at home, and I think at this point we have our identity figured out on offense and defense. I think we steal one here from the Bills. What do you think?
Do. Joe, you're an optimistic individual. I just can't justify it right now because, and again, a lot of things change. We're coming off a bye week. I think that's definitely going to help us. We're going to be all banged up after 13 weeks in a row. But the Bills are still the Bills, and we got to get the L's somewhere. So I'm going to have to take our lumps on the Bills this year. I'm going 0-2 against the Bills, and then hopefully next year. That's not to say that we can't make the playoffs. It's not to say we can't even make a run for the division for them because they have a tougher schedule than we do. But I think we have a ways to go before we get on their level yet.
All right. Well, we've already talked about the Bills in their offseason, so I think we're good there. Let's move on to the Ravens, Mike. What have they done in the offseason?
The Ravens. That's a very good question. The Ravens.
I think they basically just got better, right?
The Ravens have ravened.
Have ravened, which is...
That's what they've done. I mean, they re-signed Derrick Henry to a big deal. They still think he has stuff left in the tank. They got DeAndre Hopkins, who is probably going to end up being an impact player for them, but they're going to find a way to get him the football. And they also, a big one that they did was re-sign Ronnie Stanley to a 3-year, $60 million deal because I really was all in on that guy.
Oh, God, if we could have swung him somehow.
He was one of our number one priorities, and his priority was he was never leaving Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, they got Derrick Henry. They got pieces to compete. Why would he, right?
Oh, I don't blame the guy. I just lament it.
Of course.
I mean, they lost guys like Nelson Aguilar and Deontay Johnson. They didn't even use those guys. A couple of their linemen, though, Josh Jones, Patrick McCarry, those were decent pieces for them that they lost. Malik Harrison, they lost him. Tre'Davious White, they lost him.
I really like their draft, Mike. I mean, Malachi Starks, to me, is top tier in the draft, if not the best safety in the draft. The guy does everything. If you watch this guy's highlights, his athleticism, his instincts, I mean, everything is off the charts. Mike Green obviously has off-the-field issues. That's why he fell to 59 overall. But he was mocked up as high as, I saw him as high as 12. Yep. So, I mean, you have a guy like Mike Green who's, let's face it, is he a bad guy off the field? Is he not? The Ravens don't care.
The value is fantastic.
Yeah, and so you got him. Then you got the tackle from LSU, Emory Jones. So you get these guys that are just gonna.
Teddy Buchanan, we like that guy.
Yeah, Teddy Buchanan. You got a few guys too on the defensive side of the ball. Oh, yeah, Behal Cohn there.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're doing what the Ravens do, right? They're replenishing. They're making strengths stronger, and you know what we're going to get. You're going to get Lamar Jackson running over the field. You're going to get Derrick Henry running all over us, and whether it's early in the game or late in the game when he's got 20-something carries, but he's only got 50 yards, and he breaks a long one, right? I mean, they're just going to keep coming at us and punching us in the mouth until they win. I think this is an easy loss to us. We haven't been tested. They have a much harder schedule, so I think this is where it's tough, where how do you see a win? I mean, this defense got better, the offense got better, and they're the cream of the crop of the NFL. I mean, they're right up there.
They're a powerhouse. They're what we're looking to chase, even more so than the Bills, even more so than the Chiefs, because I think the Ravens is just a tougher, smash-mouth team, and that's who we want to be. That's the identity that we want to follow. But saying that, I don't think we're going to get over that hump this year. I'm taking an L on this one as well. The Ravens, especially at that time in the schedule, Week 16, they're going to be playing for playoff seeding. They're still going to have stuff to play for, and they're not going to show us any quarter or any mercy, so I'm taking an L.
I'm with you, Mike. I can't agree more. I mean, there's not much more to say about it.
No.
The rich get richer, and our arrow is pointing up, but we're just not there yet. I don't think that's in our realm of possibilities. The Chiefs, who were not playing, they were probably the fakest 15-1 team I've ever seen.
For real.
And so the Ravens, they're up there. They're the cream of the crop in the AFC. So
Still not clutch, though. I haven't been to a Super Bowl, so I'll believe it when I see it.
it's true. Very true. But regular season, oof.
Yeah, they'll knock it out of the park with. They get all the accolades and medals and attention in the world, but we'll believe it when we see it when they can knock off the Chiefs to get to the
or
Super
the Bills
Bowl.
or whoever, right? Whoever's up there.
Every NFC team contender has a lot to prove because they can't get past the Chiefs.
Exactly.
So we'll see about all that.
And the refs.
That's an episode. That's a whole
episode.
That's a whole episode. But yeah, we have them, and then we close out the season with 2 divisional games. We got Week 17 away at the Jets at 1 p.m., and then we have Week 18 at home against the Dolphins, which is TBD. So as far as the Jets, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on it.
Nah.
I've already said everything that I had to say about the Jets, and I feel like we're going to sweep them. The context of where we're playing right here, regardless of either team's record, is irrelevant to me. I know for a fact we're still going to be playing for something.
Well, I think it's a little relevant because I think we're going to be definitely playing for something.
For something.
And the Jets will be playing for nothing.
They might be playing for tanking.
Right, exactly. They might be playing, backups and stuff. So I feel like it's a W no matter what.
Easy win.
Yeah, and I think earlier in the season, which is only week 11, they could be in the same boat there where they're like
they have
already, 2 wins.
They could already be 1-9.
Right.
Or
So
something.
this is where it's like, yeah, the Jets could beat us maybe earlier, but at this point, they're not going to be playing for anything.
No, absolutely not.
So then you got Miami, right?
And Miami, and I like the TBD on the schedule because
little flex.
Yeah, that means they can flex it out. Like we might be actually us and the Dolphins might be battling for the 7th seed in that Week 18
100%,
game.
100%.
That's a completely plausible thing. So I like the fact that it can get flexed out like that. I had us losing in Miami. And we've already discussed Miami's whole roster and offseason, so I'm not going to do that again.
Yep.
But I had them, but just how I have us losing in 100-degree weather to them in September, I have them losing to us in hopefully snowy, sub-zero conditions in Week 18 in the first week of January because they can't handle it.
Right.
So I'm putting this down as a W, and I think that's going to be a statement game to cap off our playoff season with a resounding W against the Dolphins, a division rival, and we're gonna have snow. We're gonna be throwing it in the air. It's gonna be like the 12-0 one all those years ago in like 03 or 04 when we beat them 12-0 and Bruce was throwing all the snow back into the crowd and whatnot.
That good feeling game.
I know I'm getting nostalgic and I'm getting I'm getting delusional, but that's why I envision that game to be a big win because I like the pageantry, the potential pageantry.
Of course, and you got to think at this point they may not have Jalen Ramsey or Tyreek Hill on their roster, right?
Or Tua,
right? If Tua let's say if Tua gets hurt at any point in the season, this is the last week of the season, I'm probably blowing it up as soon as Tua gets hurt. I'm probably like, hey, anybody, what do you want? Give me a 2nd rounder for 3rd rounder for Tyreek Hill. I'll take it.
Didn't they draft Carson Beck in the 7th round? And I think they're going to turn to him. Or was it Quinn Ewers? Who was the guy?
Quinn Ewers.
It was Quinn.
Yeah.
It was Quinn Ewers. So
yes.
They think he's what's next. Or if you look on the fan blogs and whatnot, they think he might be what's next. That's debatable.
He's got a great trophy room. I'll give him that.
Oh, indeed. Good, more power to him. But one more concussion. Tua is a great kid. But I'm really concerned about him.
Yeah,
I really am.
I'm just shocked that they're even still toting him out there. But I mean, you got it right. There's just in the NFL, quarterbacks are not a dime a dozen. There's not many starting caliber actual players that you can count on in the NFL. So, and he obviously doesn't want to call it quits either. But he could easily go the route of Andrew Luck.
Yeah, he doesn't want. He wants to play.
He wants to play, right? So. But all right, guys. So Mike, you are at 10-7, and I'm sitting at 11-6, and so I think we're right in the same ballpark of we had a few differences in the schedule and how we thought it would shake out, and I think it comes down to they got to play the games, right? This is way early. This is me and you looking at it from different angles. without any injuries, without any other things going on. And so, yeah, I feel pretty good about it, though.
Not to mention the fact that I think this is practical. I don't think we went overboard. I know we love our team and we try to always err on the side of positivity, but I'm looking at these matchups and it's preliminary and on paper, but our schedule is so weak that these are all
It's
so
tough.
many of these games are winnable games, so it's tough to rule things out. You got to rule things out here and there, but I don't think we're out of line in any way whatsoever.
I think anything that shows me between 9 to 10 wins at the floor, and you could go as high as you could talk me into 12 to 13 wins. I'm not going to put that on paper, but these losses could be wins. Some of these wins could be losses, but not many.
Absolutely.
Not many, right?
Yeah.
How many of these wins could be losses? So it's what it comes down to is this is why we watch, and this is why the NFL is so great, because I've walked into games at Gillette where hail's coming down sideways, and here's Brady throwing 5 touchdowns in the first half. So, I mean, we don't have Brady, we don't have those situations, but this is why the NFL is so great, because of the parity, because of the interesting storylines that build up, and
Any given Sunday.
This is why we're mega fans. So, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a great episode. It's a little long. We're going to cut it up a little bit, but next week, we still have to talk about what our episode is going to be about next week, but we were thinking about diving into the AFC. Let us know in the comments what you want to hear as well. We still have a Pat's Planet collaboration that we want to do, and many other things to come, but it's an off season right now. We have time to think about how we want to approach the next few weeks, as it'll be a little quiet, but we'll be on top of all the training camp and mini camp and all these different off-season activities. So stay tuned, and thank you guys for joining in.
All right. Thanks, guys. LFG.
Let's go.
Let's go.